Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to associate myself with the remarks of the distinguished chairman of the Finance Committee, a committee that I feel very privileged to serve on, with its distinguished chairman. He has a message that I think should be required reading for everybody on this side and more especially on the other side, and I really appreciate his remarks and his leadership. Mr. President, I want to speak today on the confirmation of Mr. Gregg Doud, who is the President's nominee for the Chief Agricultural Negotiator at the Office of the United States Trade Representative. Here in the Senate, we often say, or I hope we often say, that we're only as good as our staff. And I have been blessed with the very best. Gregg is one example of why that is true. Gregg served as the senior professional staff on the Senate Agriculture Committee for me during my time as ranking member in 2011 through 2013. We like to say in Kansas that congressional staff are bucket toters. And during those few years, we toted a lot of buckets together. From the early days of the Super Committee and the sequestration, multiple iterations of farm bills, to animal disease scares, and the oversight of the MF Global mess or situation, Gregg handled everything that was thrown at him, and all were wearing his cowboy boots with a pointed toe. But Capitol Hill certainly wasn't where Gregg started cutting his teeth in agriculture. He hails from Mankato, Kansas, where he was raised on a dry land, wheat, grain sorghum, soybean, swine, and cow-calf operation. Talk about diversified agriculture. He attended my alma mater, Kansas State University, home of the ever-fighting and always optimistic Wildcats. Good luck to them tonight. Just last September, Gregg was back in Manhattan, Kansas, where he was honored as the 2017 Kansas State University Department of Agriculture Economics Distinguished Alumni Award. From K-State, Gregg went on to work for the U.S. Wheat Associates, who are tasked with developing markets for U.S. wheat all around the world. Eventually, he became the chief economist for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. One of the very first trials that Gregg faced at the NCBA was the cow that stole Christmas, when just before Christmas in 2003, a case of mad cow disease was confirmed in the United States, resulting in a devastating blow to U.S. beef exports. Gregg worked on behalf of the beef industry with the U.S. Trade Representative, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the State Department to rebuild the reputation and reliability of U.S. beef exports. Kansas currently ranks as the third highest U.S. state exporter of beef to the global market. U.S. trade policy has been a very hot topic last year, and it is one that Gregg certainly experienced and is well-versed, and he's well-versed. He served as a cleared advisor and later chairman of the USDA, USTR, Animal Products Agriculture Trade Advisory Committee. A lot of words, but a very important committee. And it was during the negotiations of a variety of trade agreements, including Australia, Bahrain, Colombia, CAFTA, South Korea, Morocco, Panama, and Peru. Obviously, he's been everywhere. Gregg's background and experience gives him a leg up in the challenge of serving as the Chief Agriculture Negotiator at USTR. He understands what trade means to the agriculture industry, and he has the experience to help maintain U.S. agriculture's role as a reliable supplier around the world. Certainly a big challenge today. At a time when the agriculture economy is in a rough patch, the fourth year of prices below the cost of production, pretty much across the board, all across the country, and commodity prices still falling, farmers and ranchers now depend on trade more than ever. We need continued focus on exporting not just what we make, Mr. President, but also what we grow. Let me repeat that. We need to export not just what we make. There's a lot of focus on that with regards to trade policy now coming out of the White House and this administration, but also what we grow. Kansas farmers and ranchers work hard. On a regular basis, they have to make sacrifices, overcome the weather, overcome obstacles, and make common sense decisions that have significant consequences. That is why I know that Gregg will be successful in the job of Chief Agricultural Negotiator. He is a Kansas cowboy who knows how to roll up his sleeves and certainly get things done. He understands why strong trading relationships are absolutely critical to agriculture. And I am glad he is down at the USTR. We can get to work with Ambassador Bob Lighthizer and lead the charge in advancing the U.S. trade agenda. Along with partners at the Department of Agriculture, like our champion there, Secretary Sonny Perdue, and the Undersecretary for Trade and Foreign Agriculture Affairs, Ted McKinney, Gregg will ensure that agriculture has a seat at the table and that our farmers and ranchers are being heard. The U.S. agriculture industry has worked long and hard to increase our competitiveness in markets around the world, but their work is never finished, and they cannot do it alone. I know that with Gregg riding point, the voices of the hard-working farmer and rancher will be well represented all around the world. So congratulations to you, Gregg, on your confirmation as the Chief Agricultural Negotiator at the USTR. I look forward to continuing to work with you on behalf of U.S. Ag. One more admonition, one more piece of advice. When you're riding point, just make sure that you look over your shoulder once in a while to see if the herd is still there. And if it isn't, don't worry about it. We got your back. Thank you. I yield my time, Mr. President, and after careful inspection, would note that there is an absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.